And now live. Welcome back to another episode of Ask Someone Else with yours truly, Property by Kazi, everyone's favorite property developer. Self-proclaimed. I'm sure there's a lot of other people that are a lot of other people's favorites, but I'm going to say that today because I'm feeling good. I've had a good weekend, and today I'm going to be joined by Ryan Cresswell. And as titled, Getting Started in Property is what we're going to be talking about today. If you haven't already, invite adding in and doing now. Just some general housekeeping. If you do have a question, make sure you use the question box. Everyone can get good value out of it. How you doing, brother? You okay?
Yeah, how you doing, man? Long time no see.
I know. It's been a while, but it's good to have you on. How's your weekend been?
Yeah, not too bad. Arsenal won today, so we can't complain. Yours?
Exactly. Liverpool are drawing. It's all going very well. It's all going to plan.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was just explaining the process today, so I'm gonna have a chat with you, learn a little bit about your journey. I've spoke to you already in person, but hopefully we can learn a little bit more about what you've been up to over the past couple of years. And if anybody's got some questions for myself, Ryan, make sure you use the question box to get them in so everyone can get value out of those. So introduce yourself. Who are you?
I'm Ryan Cresswell. Ryan Cresswell Property on Instagram, and I'd say I'm a property entrepreneur. So what I mean by that is I'll invest, develop, manage, sort of a bit of everything really. So been in property for about now nearly full time for 2 years. Similar way, to you, Kaz. Obviously, before it was called rent to rent. You were already doing it, but yeah, that's sort of how I got involved. And now I'm buying property. Due to the barrier to entry, I'm buying in the northeast. And yeah, that's where I'm at now. So it's been a pretty busy, nearly 2 years now, a year and a half, 2 years.
Okay, so I know prior to property, you were playing football.
I was playing football, yeah.
Up until what age were you playing?
College days, yeah.
Okay.
So, and obviously where I know CADs and people that you know. But then after that, I've started working full time. Then I moved to London. Remember I told you about the currency, obviously with Jaden and Jaden's dad. Yeah, so obviously I was working in London full time as a currency exchange broker. So doing a lot of working with high net worth individuals, doing big currency transactions. So buying a lot of property, to be honest. A lot of people, you'll know this as well, Kaz. A lot of foreign investors are buying in, obviously in the UK at the moment, because the currency is traditionally, it's obviously a bit cheaper now for a Hong Kong buyer or a Russian buyer to buy in London, because back in the day, obviously the pound was stronger. So a lot of people will be, investing in London, investing in the UK, but then a lot of people will also be buying holiday homes. That's sort of slowed down a bit now, but a lot of people buying property, art, watches, wine, even yachts, like that. So I was involved in that. That was my sort of job in London, but I always wanted to get in property. So I saved up for years to get one single let, because I thought that was traditionally that's my only option.
Question for you: What was it that made you? Obviously, you were working, you moved to London for a good job. What was it like? What was it about property that made you want to get into it? A little bit and potentially full time.
Well, you know what? I moved to London to earn more money to invest in property.
Okay, so you already knew you wanted to. It was a means to an end, the 9 to 5.
I knew people in London, broker jobs, they earn good money. And where I lived, there's not amazingly paid jobs. I'm in Salisbury, so in between Bournemouth and Southampton. You know how you can work in the city and get sort of an entry job starting, 35K in London, whereas you don't really get opportunities where I'm from. So I thought, just try and move to London, try and sort of work your way up, do this sort of the rat race, the 9 to 5. And go from there really, but it was almost a means to an end,
But I think what you touched on is important, because a lot of one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on is, although you've done some amazing stuff, you're still quite early on in your journey, and a lot of people that I speak to or have questions want to know how to get started. And I think what you've just shown there is a lot of the time it takes confidence, it takes like an idea, and it takes execution. But obviously, you left the comfort zone of where you were, left friends and family, and took a step. And not just took a step to say, okay, I'm going to take that step, and once I get there, I'm happy. But understand that that step is literally just a stepping stone to where you want to get to in the long term.
It's similar to like what I would touch on about rent to rent as well. It's exactly the same. So obviously, before I got involved with these more creative ways of making money through property, I literally just thought the only way is to save up. You know, where we're from, especially where you are, but even where I'm from down south, houses are still, you know, you're talking at least $250,000 for, you know, a 2-bed flat and stuff like that. So it's a lot of money to get that 25% deposit, just earn maybe a £500-600 net on it. It's like, it will take you years to not even earn much money from it. So that's when it's actually like very early days of COVID when I started to look into, you know, different creative ways to start earning money through property, which obviously was rent to rent is fantastic for people that want to earn a good cash flow. Really, that's actually more importantly, gain a knowledge for managing property. Just actually, yeah, you almost get like a trial run of owning your own properties, right? But
so with rent to rent, obviously I know you've did for a while now and had some experience. For those that don't know what rent to rent is, because there will be some people in that don't, can you explain what rent to rent is?
Yes, so essentially rent to rent is when it's pretty much, it is what it says on the tin. You're renting the asset of someone. So in my case, I've got a 1, 5, 6 and a 7-bed HMO. So I'm in this landlord who was, because this was at the start of COVID, he was struggling to let it out because student market was on its knees, and there wasn't it, you know, like
it's in a pandemic where you're supposed to isolate. No one wants to share a house.
Yeah,
like, people would go back to their parents. People were, you know what I mean, suffering, struggling to let. People didn't really understand what was going to happen. So yeah, I was with some of my HMOs. It was like my first time that I wasn't at 100% occupancy, and I was like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah, and
if there was other options, you know, people would take them. And especially with working remotely as well, meant that a lot of people realized I don't need to be near the city now. I could, like you said, work from near Bournemouth and still get paid.
Yeah, exactly. So what I was finding is a lot of these HMOs which weren't up in the top 5, top 10% of the en suites, you know, the double oven, all this like really nice sort of spec, they were just getting left behind. So long story short, you're paying the landlord a fixed guaranteed rent, and you're taking control of obviously the council tax, all the bills included, and you're legally subletting rooms, and you're making the profit of the difference of your income, and then obviously the gross, and then obviously your rent out to your landlord and your bills, and you're making that difference. So it high. I don't want to say it's high risk because obviously a lot of people do it, but it's definitely, it depends on your risk appetite. There is a lot more.
I think definitely you need to understand, and that kind of leads me nicely onto my next question. Or my first question would be, how much to secure your first deal? Like, how much did you have to invest to get your first deal over the line and make sure everything was compliant and make sure you were ready to take the property on?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because my answer, obviously, but so I think I was prepared to put in about, it was anywhere from about 7 to 10 grand into like this to start this business. But right, this, you know, that's a good amount. I'm hearing 5k to start up a deal, but so we're doing 1 grand into compliance, setting up, like, you know, stuff just to get your branding out there, and you've got your obviously your commissioners that you need to sign up to and to get. So about 1 grand into that, but then into my first deal, it's all about the negotiation. So I must have had about 3 or 4k ready to secure this deal out of a scenario, but being creative and having good negotiation skills, because you're not buying and it's not your asset, you have to negotiate every single aspect of that deal, right? So the first month's rent, I'm telling him I need that first month's rent free because for X, Y, and Z. So my excuse was, your property.
I wouldn't say. I'd always avoid the word excuse. Your rationale.
Yeah. So I would say my rationale to myself, I
Yeah.
guess that's the better way to say it. Yeah. So was purely that I need to set up this property to, every room to be
Yeah.
marketed. I can't start paying you rent on day one because it makes sense for me to try and have a bit of time to market this the best
Yeah.
way. Take my time on that month buffer, let it out. So in a house
Uh,
like £2,000 already.
And I think that's really important what you've touched on there in regards to people that are looking to get into rent to rent. Like I've rent to rent for 5 years, and it's all about firstly making sure you don't overpromise and underdeliver. So if you're from day one saying, "Look, I need a month's rent free," but this is why, because with that month's rent free, it gives me, the periods to actually make sure that we can maximize and look after the property, do the due diligence on the tenants we want to get in, get the best type of tenants in for the long term, so I can offer you the value of service that I've said that I'm going to do from day one to the end of our tenancy. So I think really getting that pitch right, if you want to get into rent to rent, is key. And I can see that you learned like a lot about the compliance, because a lot of people glaze over the compliance elements of things, what you need to do to set up a business, the importance of your contract, because your contract with your landlord is effectively what protects your business and protects your money. So I'm glad to hear that you know about that. And I think from like doing a bit of research, I think that you got some training, and I think it was from, is it TJ and was it TJ and
Napa, yeah, yeah.
TJ and Napa, right? TJ. So TJ is TJ Life and Napa Life, but is that their handles?
Um, I don't know the handles off by heart, but I think
Yeah, I think that's them. But yeah, I've seen they've been doing some good stuff around the rent to rent. Did you find that you got value for money out of the training that you did with them?
yeah. So obviously TJ does service accommodation,
Yeah,
rent to HMO. So this to start with, it was only rent to HMO,
yeah.
and yeah, to be honest, without his guidance, I wouldn't be able to. Well, it was invaluable basically, and it's ongoing with him as well. It's like ongoing assistance. So
Okay, so it's giving you support for it, because I think that's also really key, particularly when people are looking for training courses, that there is an element of support, because it's all well and good kind of like you can buy a book tomorrow, but
yeah,
if you get to a point where you're like, I don't really understand what was said in this paragraph, it's a stumbling block. So I think that's good that TJ does offer, and other officers that
yeah,
ongoing support as well.
thing, right? Because there's like all these little which are going to crop up 6-9 months down the line, which you can't physically teach 6 weeks or 4 weeks. There's probably stuff which crops up on your HMOs that you think
So
today.
why don't, for those that potentially, give us an example of something, an issue you've had and how you've overcome it with one of your HMOs. Because I've had police involvements. I've had deaths, unfortunately. I've had people just go missing. I've had all sorts from like A to Z in HMOs. I've seen it, but I'd like to hear what your experience is in like
Right.
early on.
One of my recent ones, because some of them just like if you were going to say them out loud, they just sound stupid, don't they? Like some of the stuff which happens in these
But
shared.
I think somebody's using my toothbrush.
Yeah, it's crazy. So what's one of the latest ones that I've had? Put me on the spot here. I can't even think really,
It's
but
fact because I think, but the main thing is, I think for people that want to get into rent to rent, is like number one, like you said very early on, understanding how much money you've got to invest, what you can make out of that, and if you are investing, because you may find a deal where you can invest £2,000 on day one or £8,000, but it's really all about your repayment term and how long you've got the contract for, and
exactly.
how long it's going to take you to make back your money, and then how long you're going to make over the term, and you can kind of annualize your return on investments, because at the end of the day, it's that's what it's about, really, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So just like when we're buying property, we obviously want a return on investment, but obviously we own the asset. So, essentially once we get our investment returned, like, it's infinity return, right? But with rent to rent, you do need it back quick. Like, for us, when we buy property now, you may want it back in, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, and that'd be a great. Whereas in rent to rent, you might want it back in 3 or 6 months max, depending on a 3-year contract or a 5-year contract, because you need to profit, right? It's so you need the funds back. But the main key to getting that repayment of your return back is right. So learn stuff like you don't actually have to put down a 5-week deposit. You can actually agree with the landlord a deposit replacement certificate or a scheme or something you sign up to, which is effectively they don't hold a deposit anymore. You have to pay for the policy, but it's 1 week rather than 5 weeks, and it actually covers them more than a 5-week deposit would as well. So it's in their interest to do that.
And I think that's where, like, you know, for example, that same thing about the justification, like, because it's not an excuse not to pay a deposit, it's justifying why you may not have to pay one or why another scenario is better. And I think that's what, because I hear, you know, I think, and even in the comments, a lot of people have said, oh, it looks like everybody's doing rent to rent nowadays, which is very true. But like, when any business you're going to do, you very rarely reinvent the wheel. You're very rarely creating a new business, you know, away from Facebook and the metaverse that hasn't been done before, hasn't been heard of, you know. So in a lot of times what you're actually doing is just trying to improve on or get processes in place that mean you can be more efficient or more profitable or provide a better service than those already doing it. And I think for those that are looking at doing rent to rent, that's what you've got to be thinking about. Like, how does your pitch differ from somebody else's? How does your delivery of service differ from somebody else's? And what can you do to make yourself stand out head and shoulders above the rest so that you get those businesses, get that business when other people potentially don't?
Well, this is exactly what I was going to say. That, you know, it is very competitive now, rent to rent. And, you know, it's just like anything though, like when a lot of people are growing up, especially sort of me and my friends, everyone wants to be a professional footballer. But that doesn't mean there's not wanting to be a footballer, because everyone wants to be one. You just got one of the better ones.
Exactly that.
Put you off. So like rent to rent, a lot of people want to do it, but you know, only the good ones will then get these good deals. So you need to, if you're going to do it, you do it wholeheartedly and you do it correct. And you know, you don't bite off more than you can chew, and you've got to have the long plan, right? So my plan, like, I could have took a lot of rent to rent deals because my business is established now. You know, I can turn down deals, I get given deals, but I've got to have that, you know, that 5-10 year plan. So what's the plan? Is it to grow a huge rent to rent portfolio, to earn enough cash flow to leave your 9 to 5, to be able to invest in property, learn about property. And I think that's key, because I always had my game plan like set out. I wanted to obviously leave the 9 to 5 with rent to rent, earn enough cash flow where, you know, it's lucrative enough that we can eventually start buying property. But you've always got to have that aim goal to where you want to be.
I think that leads on quite well to a question from VA51 that said, what did you target to reach? So what target did you reach to enable you to do property full time?
Talk about the little income question there as well. They love those ones.
Yeah, well, just more so because I guess everything is the circumstance dependent. Because if you're living at home with mum and dad, or you're renting a room for a couple of £100 a month, for example, you don't need that much to be able. You could potentially leave work off £800 because that's your overheads. But I think really, it's not really for me anyway. It was always like, what do I need to pay the bills? You know, and that's what I could leave off, or what would I be missing out on? Yeah,
so exactly. So this is what I did. Because of COVID, I working remotely, right? So I actually moved back to live with my dad. So I stripped down a lot of my, obviously because no one was living in London through, it was dead. So I moved back much outgoing, because obviously, worst case scenario, I might have 4. I still work in the city job, obviously working remotely, but I was setting myself up to leave to pursue this properly. And the main thing you want to set up is, just like you said, you need to understand how much money you need to take care of, I don't know, your car payments or your rent, your council tax, like stuff which you know at the end of the month you're going to have to pay for. And that's the key. If you know you've got enough cash flow to take care of that, then that's when, you know, you can leave the job.
That's really what it is. I think it's definitely, there's not, like, the amount is personal, because somebody with, I don't know, 3 kids and an adult dependent is going to need way more money than somebody who's living at home with mum and dad. And it's just, so that's effectively where it is. I think you've just got to look at your personal circumstance. But I think, like you also said, sometimes it's like, you know, saving as well. So looking at how you can save money before you make money is one of the best ways to start investing. So if you can call up Sky and maybe do without the Sky Sports and just do it on the mobile for a little while, and you're saving £50 a month on that Sky bill, that's £600 for the year. If you sort of do that across, you know, 5 or 6 different bills, potentially that's £3,000 you've saved that can go into, you know, a rainy day pot, a potential investment, or help you leave a full-time job if that's what you want to do.
The main thing is you want to be saving hard prior to leaving the job, because if you've got that fixed income coming in, and you know normally you can go on a few nights out a month and stuff like this, and you have a bit of excess income. If you know eventually you're going to leave, then why not, for that build up of that 6 to 9 months, start saving that little bit that you use. So then you've got a buffer which you know is going to take care of that, replace that income for a few months. Straight away you might start making income. It might be difficult, but I think the main thing is also hold on to that fixed income for as long as possible, really.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking, right, I'm just going to quit work and go for this now. If you can juggle both, or cut down some days, you know, and try and transition that as easy as possible, that's going to be the key, because cash flow is the key to it.
Yeah, no, I think that definitely makes a lot of sense, and I think I like something you said about not rushing to leave a 9 to 5, because I think there's definitely a stigma that you have to leave your 9 to 5 ASAP. I've happened to be somebody who left mine early on, but you know, for particularly in property, me leaving mine early on was long term was probably a bit of a mistake at the beginning, just because I then wasn't able to get a mortgage. So I had to use a bridging loan for my first property because I wasn't able to get it. So a lot of the time, you know, your 9 to 5, that stable income can actually be a springboard to allow you to borrow more, earn more, and actually do more in property. So I think you definitely have to look at why you're leaving a job, and if it's a need now, or if potentially you can work a little bit longer to, you know, maybe do more quickly. I'm going to go on to another question, which is, oops, let me see. I think they deleted the question. So Black Badge Properties says, with rent to rent, can you get a letting agent to manage a property that's far away from yourself, even if you have, and I think it's like a contract directly with the landlord?
Yeah, well, in my experience, I've tried to do this, and no, the agents around my area, they won't do it unless they're dealing directly with the landlord. But I've heard other people have different experiences with it. But I've tried to employ there's a high street agent which tried to do, which I first approached, and they said no. Then I know a guy who's actually got a rent to rent portfolio, and now because of that, he's also got a lettings portfolio. It wasn't something he was interested in either, but I don't know if there's actually a regulation around that.
There'll be stuff in regards to they have to obviously do the proof of ownership, etc. So potentially if the landlord was looking to provide it, but then they're also thinking it's also a weird conversation to have with the landlord at the same time, because you've offered them a service to say that you can manage it, and then you're now outsourcing it. I think for a lot of people, I would recommend, like, if you can find a good sort of multi-skilled handyman that could potentially be your eyes and ears on the ground, also like my cleaning team. So if I was doing stuff a bit further away than the area that I was operating in, my cleaners would give me like a weekly report when they attend the property, and outline the condition. I could also use them to provide access by handovers and things like that. So maybe looking at a sub team of, like, you know, subcontractors you could use to manage such deals. But I think you do have to be careful with it.
Yeah, obviously, if your rent-to-rent portfolio's cash flowing really well, then you could even set up your own little, you know, lettings team, I guess. But when you're starting off, part of the reason for getting involved in rent-to-rent, and it should be your reason for wanting to get in rent-to-rent, is the experience of managing property, the experience of, you know, if you want to buy houses, then how do you expect to buy and, you know, manage your own properties if you failed at rent to rent as well? So you should be looking for, obviously you should have a good knowledge already prior to taking on someone's house, but you should also be now enjoying managing the property, enjoying the issues which come up, because that's what's part and parcel of being involved in property, right? These calls at midnight, stuff like that, it happens.
No, definitely. This question, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have put this one up. Keisha Cake UK is as a landlord, how do I secure a good rent to rent deal? I think if you mean how do you get a good rent to rent person to look after your property, I think you're going to find that you're going to get 150 or however many people are in this room. You're going to get 100 messages of everybody saying that they'll take your property. There's a lot of companies out there. Just do your due diligence, see who's traded for a little while, ask for references from their existing landlords, potentially even to meet them to see the actual property. For us, when we were starting out doing rent to rent and a landlord wasn't sure because we were new, we'd say come down to one of our existing properties, come and see the condition, come and see, we'll give you, like, you know, with all the details redacted, a sample of some of the tenants, like the type of tenants that we've got, if we've got some really great tenants in.
That was the sort of game changer for my business when it started, was when you've got that confidence of having other deals that you can show them. Oh, you're in that area. Oh, we have a deal around that area. Let me just take you to that. You know, open up the door. You can meet my tenants. Tenants know me as the manager here. The tenants have respect for me as the manager there. Then that's, you know, instantly that landlord that's on the fence of maybe 4 different rent to rent providers, they're gonna, you know, appreciate maybe the fact that you have deals, and some people may only have a website. Yeah, I think once you've got more deals, it does obviously have that credibility, and that it's all about trust. At the end of the day, they've got to trust that you're going to pay rent, trust that you're going to, you know, take care of their property, because at the end of the day, that's that asset. That might be the only way they make money from that property.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think people need to completely understand that when you are dealing with people's properties, you're potentially dealing with their primary or one of their, if not their biggest asset and biggest investment. Some people see it like looking after their child. They're going to know that's been taken care of, and you've got to show and demonstrate how you can do that. Again, if you do have questions, just make sure you use the question box, as that's the only questions we're going to be answering today. I'll let a couple of those build up while I ask you a couple of questions. So you've been doing rent to rent for a while. You've built up a level of experience. You've done some training with some coaches. You are obviously building up the cash flow to be able to leave your 9 to 5 and focus on property full time. What was the first property that you bought? Your first?
Northeast. It was actually the day I met you. Can you remember I said you just completed on the property?
Yeah.
On it that day as well. So that was probably about 4 or 5 months ago now. I'm investing in the Northeast in Darlington. We spoke about it. I've basically, because of the barrier to entry in my area and the cash pot I had, I couldn't stick down 25%, you know, in my area, which I know like the back of my hand, because it's too expensive. Now there are areas 30, 40 minutes away from me, which I could afford, like areas like Swindon and places like this. But I know Swindon as well as I know somewhere 5 hours away. So why would I not learn? It is 5 hours away, obviously, which is a massive con. But why would I not sort of get to know a place up there where the yields are like 10% without even, you know, looking for a deal? Whereas down here, you know, I've got to learn that area and the returns aren't as good.
Yeah.
Just because I can get a 3-hour drive, you know, save on 3-hour drive, but really.
So what what type of property was the first one you bought?
So it was a 2-bed terraced, 59,500, and it was I did that on a bridge, and it was a BRR deal. So instantly got the builders in and completely needed. It's on my profile. You'll see the 3 videos we did on it. This was the first deal I brought, and we completely refurbed it, documented the whole thing, which was good for the valuation and stuff like that, because they can actually understand the depth of work you've gone into to hit that higher valuation. And we got it valued at 78,500. So we managed to recycle a decent amount of money out. Obviously, when I say recycle for people that don't know, is I brought it on a bridging loan, not a mortgage. It's a short-term product, which is normally used for people that are either going to sell or remortgage onto a long-term product. So bought the house, we put in about 13 grand on a refurb.
Yeah.
Gets you a refurb up there. That gets you like a bathroom in your place.
No, listen, you know, I mean, Give me a bathroom and a kitchen.
So yeah, did the refurb. We had a damp course we had to do, which sort of put made us leave in a bit more, made me leave in a bit more money than needed. But yeah, in the end, got the end value at 78,000. So this is when you're applying for the long-term product, the mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
78,000, and then I've got a 75% loan to value mortgage on that, which then paid me out maybe I think it's about 58k if I'm not wrong. Which obviously then I pay off my bridging loan, which is the short-term product, and then I'm left with the difference, obviously with my legal fees and my broker fees, and
Yeah.
you know that was the first deal basically. So not a great deal, but I didn't lose money. I've got it let out.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for a lot of people that are looking to do something, because a lot of people are looking, and for a long time they've been thinking and looking and saying, well, I can't afford it, so I'll do it next year. And then prices go up and they still can't afford it, I'll do it next year. And I still can't afford it, I'll do it next year. And if you talk to people in property that have been here for a while, like, the best time to buy a property was yesterday. If not yesterday, buy it today. If not today, then tomorrow. So the fact that you moved and did something, I want to commend you for doing that, particularly at your age, coming out of your comfort zone to look at another area. I know you said it's not the best deal, but at the end of the day, if you're not losing money and you're gaining experience, then it is a good deal. And you know what I mean, you're going to learn from that to be able to understand what is a great deal going forwards, and the type of deal that you could potentially walk away from, and the type of deal that you definitely have to snap up.
And this is something that I talk about quite a lot to people that I'm involved in property. The opportunity cost, like it costs me money to go up north, right? So if I'm going up all year waiting for a deal, it might cost 3 or 4 grand, right, for hotels, on fuel. So waiting for that opportunity is costing me money. So why not just opportunity now? It might cost me a bit more, but I don't know when my next deal is going to be. So why not just take that one? And yeah, I might grand in, but if I don't find another deal for another year, I would have spent another 5 grand to find a deal. So the opportunity.
Yeah, and also like the other side of it is your money's being eroded by inflation, because inflation is higher than interest. So property prices are rising. You know, the value of your money is falling. So if it's sitting in the bank, effectively that whole year it's all about annualizing return on investment as well, because when you don't have, like, you know, a family office with an unlimited cash pot, you have to say to yourself, okay, like, how can I best make this money work for me? And obviously sometimes you say, okay, look, it's better I don't buy something now because I think something better is going to come up. But particularly in this market, you know, over the last 4 or 5 months that you've been operating in, it's been a seller's market. You know, you go to offer, and it's best and finals on a lot of properties, and there's open days.
I paid asking price for
Yeah.
because there was so much. Actually, yeah, I paid asking price, but I managed to negotiate a grand off from this damp course, which we needed. So killed off the competition, and then you know, which I guess is a bit cheeky, and not a lot of people. I don't think you should really advise it to people. Is like meet the asking price and then negotiate down, but that's what we did on this one anyway.
I think I wouldn't advise people do that as a strategy for no reason, but you know,
It worked.
you offer based on what you pay for it. If something comes out on a survey or a home buyer survey to say that, you know, that it needs a brand new roof, that's new information. New information requires like an adjustment. It requires negotiation.
Elaine, you did it as well on that. Was it Elaine?
Yeah, you're on the lane. On the lane initially, it was on the market for 600. I think the offer was agreed at 550 or 560, if I remember correctly.
Because of the value.
And I ended up paying 525,000 because it got downvalued by a surveyor who's mad, because it was worth way more than that. But obviously, if it's being downvalued, then that's, if the banks are saying it, listen, they're the experts. So what do you want me to say? I'm obviously going to use that as a negotiation. So I'm not like, if nothing came up, I wouldn't have gone back to negotiate for the sake of it, because also I want to continue. The agent was, I think Bernard Marker has done quite a bit of business with them. You don't want to be known for doing bad business and sort of recanting on your deals and your offers and like making them waste their time. However, if you get new information, I need to relay that.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Did you manage to negotiate to that the exact price which the valuation?
No, they actually got downvalued for more. and we were going back and forth. I think you got down value to like 500,000. So effectively, we met in the middle pretty much.
Yeah. That's exactly what I did. So it was like free, but ours was because of it needed the damp course
Mm.
with £3,000. So we said like, let's chip in. I'll pay obviously £1,500 because it is going to be my asset. But they said, okay, we'll take off £1,500 of the asking price as well. So because obviously,
'Cause it just, and also it just makes sense. By the time potentially you've paid for a survey, they know that you're committed, but they also know that they want to sell the house. People don't put properties online for banter. They're
yeah,
putting it online because they want to dispose of that asset because generally they have something else to do. Now sometimes that's time dependent, sometimes it's not. Sometimes they're just like, look, I'm not fast. So you kind of have to use your agent to gauge who it is you're dealing with. Like if you know they're like, look, this like so what like a flat I bought last week, it was on for like 175, and it had some issues with the lease and some legal issues. So I gone in, I said, I'll do 165, and said no. So all right, fine, you know what I mean, just do 170. Said like, listen, like they're a property like trader. They're just like, look, it's 175. That's what I paid for it. I'm not selling it for a penny less. Like, so I know even through if something comes up, and something did come up, like there's a load of damp, it's just I know there's no point going back to them. I know the agents like quite, so it's just you kind of have to take any circumstance as it comes and know when to negotiate and when not to. Because
yeah,
sometimes by negotiating, you can ruin your relationship with that agent who could have gave you that great deal next week.
yeah. That's key. It's key. Finding, you're picking up the agents you want to work with. You respect what they say, and you know that a lot of these guys, they're not gonna lie to you when they tell you, listen, this is what it's going to need to make the deal work. But what I would highlight from that is the fact that you see these amazing deals that people get on Instagram, where all money out, all these fantastic deals, but don't feel down when you don't get all your money out.
Yeah.
It's not the reality. The reality is you get deals like this, and it's still a good deal.
If that's it. If I could get all my money out, I wouldn't be doing. If I got all my money out of every deal, I wouldn't be doing flips.
Mm,
Like because I could get all my money out and continue working. But you have to just think about what you're trying to get out of property, and know that the more active you are, the more you do, the more likely you are to be lucky and find that deal. But you're not going to find it by sitting on Rightmove all day and never offering on anything, never doing anything. So get proactive. Sometimes settle for slightly lower returns on investment because long term, that experience, that exposure, and that productivity and activity is where you're going to find that unicorn.
and it's funny you say about the relationship thing. So the agent, which we've actually, I think this is a different agent, but I've got another house and built because I brought that house at a respectable price over the last, I don't know, it's probably been about 6 months since I've been going to Darlington and meeting with people and building relationships. Brought one house, another decent deal, which was okay, but that relationship's got stronger and stronger and stronger. The latest deal we've just brought for them was off market. It's set to be all money out. So I've had two all right deals, which has now led to the trust to
Exactly that. Because it's relationships. Like property and business, a lot of the time is relationship business.
yeah,
Like, yesterday I was fortunate enough to go to a networking event, and I'm pretty shy. Like, when I'm like on lives, I can chat because this is my area. Put me in a room and strip me of my property by Kazi like superhero costume, and I'll just sit in the corner twiddling my thumbs. But then, like, just got chatting to somebody who happened to just, do you know what I mean? Is literally like worth, 7, 8, 9 figures, like minimum. But that relationship that we built is like, okay, they want to just off that, they want to do business. Whereas if you can't build those relationships, then a lot of the time you're going to miss some of the best opportunities.
yeah,
So I think just understanding that, particularly for black would-be property developers, because it can be a very lucrative market, it's very easy to become a bit of a dick
yeah.
because you make a lot of money. Like, so you have to just maintain those relationships, stay humble. There's always somebody who's making way more money than you and knows way more than you. So just stay humble, stay networking.
What is the key? Because if these guys have got deals where they know, you get all your money out, they don't want someone who's cocky and thinking like, brilliant, yeah, I'm just got this deal of my agent, I'm going to cream him for more money, this is brilliant. They want someone who's going to appreciate that. They understand that, they understand that, for instance, the reason they've gone for me is because I've built up this relationship. The guy knows we have funds there to move like quick, because the deal fell out of bed. Someone was buying it to live in. Deal fell out of bed. He said the vendor's going to put this on the market if you don't get your solicitors instructed on this today. And I was 5 hours away. But because I trust him now, I've dealt with him for so long, I've done my comps and everything, hope it all checks out on the valuation. We instructed solicitors that day, and thank God I did, because the valuation is next week, and it's set to be all money and some. So, you know, you've got
to... Good, man. Congrats. I think there's some claps in the chat, please. See? Some claps and prayers to make sure
but it's the relationship.
It does happen. We're going to go through, whiz through a couple of questions. Some of them you've answered already, but we'll just touch back on them because I think they're good questions. So M1 Unknown has asked, like, you know, in a quick 30 seconds, how did you get into property and at such a young age? And they're happy to see the success. It's inspirational, which I think is great.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So rent to rent deals to be. And
I think big up again. If you know his app, I can't remember TJ's app, but I definitely think if you can, or to be fair, if you follow Ram and go to his page, there'll be links to TJ there, so you can go and find TJ if you are interested. And find Napa as well.
To be fair, Napa's the one that was with HMO, and he's really brought me into buying this. He brought me up and showed me his deals. Bearing in mind, like, he was just a mentor of mine. He took me up north and said, "Come invest on my patch." You know, he proper brought me in. So
that's great to see, because
TJ and Napa Bafakeli. TJ and Napa Bafakeli.
Yeah, if anyone's got it, as put them in and I'll pin them. But yeah, it is great. How can I save this? I don't know how to do stuff. Wait, pin comment. Yeah, I pinned it. I'm a legend. I'm basically Steve Jobs in his prime. So, yeah, I think that's amazing they did that, because one thing you learn, like, the more money that you make, the more you realize there's unlimited money out there to make. Like that thing that I said recently in that little interview, that there's no one that's going to stop you from making money if you're doing your own thing. So bringing somebody else through, helping somebody else out, all that's going to happen is they're going to work alongside you. You're going to push each other, you know, drive each other to do better. So yeah, I think that's great that Napa did that. So that is really good. Let's have a look. So where do you find these landlords for deals, or do you have a connection with agents? I guess that's for your rent-to-rent deals. For
rent-to-rent. One rent-to-rent was, I've done something, it's called like, do you know about this Zoopla trick? It's like basically you will put a message out on Zoopla that you're looking for a property, tick every agent, and they'll get an email, and one deal come from that. So the agent rang me up saying, "Oh, I heard you're looking for this." Happens to be the day that something's popped up where the landlord is open to that. That's how that's the second deal I got, which comes from one deal. So in comparison to buy-to-lets that I've got in the northeast, like they cash flow more rent to rent for the one I don't even know. So that was for Zoopla. And the first one was open rent. Open rent, you're direct to the landlord. Like, a lot of the time, these are sort of cheap.
I want to hear it. I want to hear your pitch. Can I hear it?
What pitch?
Can we do pretend?
It's been like nearly a year since I got a rent-to-rent deal.
I want to hear your pitch. Where's your confidence?
I would say it, yeah? It's how I would say it. I say...
So, I'm in... Hello? How can I help you?
Hi, Kaz. I've heard you've got that 6 beds HMO in Bournemouth. Is that right?
Yep, yeah, that's right. Yep. It's still available.
Okay, still available. So just a quick one, really. I work with a couple providers in the area, hospital, Amazon, and what we do is we work with housing their employees. Okay. So, you know, so basically, I haven't done this in a long time, but...
It's pressure. When I'm doing this, it's pressure.
So, yeah, pressure. No. So what I'll say is we work with housing them. We've got a overflow with the guys at the moment. We're looking to try and find some temporary accommodation, all bills inclusive. So what we do is we work with a lot of landlords. We take control of their assets. And what we do is we then find them accommodation by offering them rooms, directly working with these providers, hospital, stuff like that. That's what I think that would.
And if I said, let's assume that I'm an astute landlord that's had this proposition. I said, okay, I mean, it sounds quite good, but I've heard that before. Why should I go with you guys over some other people that have offered me a similar proposal?
Yeah. So what I'd say to this is, first of all, you've got to check Company's House. We're an established company. We have deals. You can go on our website. Typically, we've actually offered free refurbishments of these houses. I'm looking at your house. It's probably on the market at the moment because you're not up to the standard where maybe the one next door is. I've seen that one. It was only on for a week, that one next door. Your one's sticking. So we're going to offer complimentary refurb. We're going to bring it to the standard which our clients expect. And, that's what's in it for you. And that's what other people might not offer you.
I like that. And that is what you've done there is you've provided a value proposition. You've also provided almost a semi-tangible comparable, and you've provided the real life example of, look, it's sticking, you've currently got a problem, we've got a solution, and this is why our solution is better than others. So, maybe go take on a couple more deals if it's slow between completion.
I'm done with rent to rent now. I can't believe we'll be doing pitches on live on a Sunday night.
Listen, I think, like you said, you were very grateful that your coaches helped you out. So hopefully you're paying it forward now by helping somebody else out that's potentially in a different stage, different part of their journey. And that's, I think, effectively, that's what these lives are all about. Because when you first came on, the first thing you messaged me saying, I want to get on, you was like, I know, like, there's loads of big developers, but get me on because, like, obviously my journey's earlier on. And that's why I did want to get you on, because you're talking from a point where you can still remember, you're still remembering your pitch. I can still see the hunger and the excitement. And that's what's going to resonate with a lot of people that are earlier on that are trying to think maybe they do want to leave their 9 to 5 or want to do something alongside their 9 to 5. And you're going to provide a lot of inspiration. So I think, you've just started your YouTube channel today, or your first launch on the YouTube.
We're trying to, because I'm earlier on compared to people like yourself and other big names in property, I'm trying to take social media serious from early stage. Mm-hmm. By the time I get to doing similar to yourself, you're going to literally look through my page, look through my YouTube, see I started exactly how you should start.
Yeah. And do you know what you're going to find is funny? Like that, number one, like when you're looking for investment and investors, like they can see what you've done. Like they're not seeing that, you might not have done the biggest deal, but they can see that you've done deals. Number two is even when you're going to bridging loan companies and you're explaining, look, I've done X, Y, and Z before, they feel more comfortable. You can package that as part of your pitch to get, a better rate from them potentially. When just so many things, like just when you're building, having a track record of what you've done effectively installs a lot of confidence and a lot of other potential stakeholders in your business. So I think, that is all really good. So I'm glad that you're doing all of that, because I miss so many projects that don't exist anymore, apart from in a financial statement somewhere or a closed SPV, because there was no evidence that I ever even bought or sold this property.
Put the photo on it. So that's it.
Yeah, it's just literally is this like they've gone, but that's good. We're gonna get through like maybe 2 more questions, and then I'm gonna direct everyone over to your socials if they want to ask you any more. Okay, I think this is again, a lot of questions are going to be around rent to rent, but it's a really interesting area that a lot of people are really interested in because there are lower barriers to entry and is great profit margin that can be made if you do it well. So what's the minimum profit margin you would consider to be a good deal, and how much do you set aside for maintenance costs? And that's from Cash.
Yeah, so first thing I would say is if you do want to learn rent to rent, you need to get in touch with both the guys which are pinned, because I've done it, but I don't get into those two if you want to take it a bit more serious. Profit margin is your risk appetite. Are you comfortable with making £500 from a deal, or are you more risk averse? Is it in the sense that you will take a deal only if it cash flows £1,000? So this is all dependent on your personal circumstances. For me, I'm not going to take anything less than £1,000 because I don't need to. Whereas to start with, I would have took £500 because that cash flow is so important to start with, and I was very hard for that £500. It's
I
all
also think it depends on the number of tenants if you're doing rent to HMO, because like, you know, it's very different managing like a 3-4 bed like micro HMO to a 9-bed 9-tenant, you know what I mean?
if you're cash £500 out of 9 beds, then yeah,
it's a lot of exposure as well, because also one, do you know what I mean, like one room, like, so having a pretty much almost a 10% void wipes out your entire profit margins. So I think you just got to look at each scenario individually, and like you said, I think that in any property investment, not just rent to rent, but it's risk and reward. Are you getting good return on your investment for your time, for your capital input, and for your risk?
Yeah, and the last part of that, believe it or not, I've actually also negotiated that 90% of the maintenance responsibilities are the landlords as well. So I'm basically liable for anything up to £100, and as soon as it goes over that, I've managed to, because these guys are used to paying this. If they're used to it, let them carry on doing it. Don't try and, you know, unless that's a deal breaker, we're going to put the deal over the line. The fact you say, then bring out that card to secure the deal. But if you've got the deal without having to do the maintenance, then even better. Don't even.
Listen, I learned that the hard way.
Oh, really?
A lot of maintenance bills, because then I was doing it early on, so I was just trying to create. I was in my head thinking, look, I already own property. What would I want if I was the landlord? So I'm trying to pitch everything. Now, this is the perfect deal, but realistically, you have to look at a balance of, you know, what's viable in the long term, and what makes sense. That does. So for those, unfortunately, we didn't get to all the questions. Got like 5 or 6 we didn't get to answer. So, you know, if you do want to learn more, then definitely add up Ride on Instagram. Check it out. He just released a new YouTube video, so I'm sure he'd appreciate it. Subscribe on the YouTube. Ryan, what are your socials for those that are listening later, maybe on YouTube or on Spotify or on Apple Music?
Yeah, so the main thing at the moment we're pushing is this Instagram. So it's Ryan Cresswell Property. I'd appreciate any follow. Obviously, thanks for having me on, Kaz. And we're now starting YouTube. So we're we're waiting for your guy actually just to send some of the after stuff from the lanes to really a good video together. But yeah, so we're going to push YouTube. First video is going to be with Kaz. The trailer for it's on my Instagram now. So check that out. And then, yeah, subscribe, because we've got a lot of content, vlog content of buying up northeast, and vlog content of meeting people like that.
So that's good. Definitely, like I said, this is an opportunity to network, have a conversation. Hopefully, Ryan will answer a couple of your questions in the DMs that we didn't get to today.
Any questions?
Next week, we've got Stephanie on. Stephanie is the author of Rent to Rent Success. So if you are also interested in rent to rent, that would be an amazing time to get on board, to come and have a look at what she's been up to, all the things she's done in regards to her investment strategies over the time. It's each and every Sunday. Ask Someone Else with yours truly, Property by Kazi. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Peace out.